Daytona was something, wasn't it?
And up in the air goes Ryan Preece.
It had a little bit of everything, including a repeat winner. But if you're William Byron, now is not the time to celebrate.
Crazy, yeah. I mean, I can't honestly believe that.
Hey, come on, William. We're not kidding. NASCAR is back to it this week in Atlanta. It's a brand new race in this brand new season.
We're here, so proud of it.
Around the Track starts now.
Daytona might be in the rear view, but the action is about to heat up in the ATL. Welcome into the 2025 season premiere of Around the Track. Carla Metz alongside Gabe McDonald, and it might be the second track on the schedule, but Gabe, it is not for the faint of heart.
Yeah, absolutely not, Carla. So many changes in recent years at Atlanta Motor Speedway, and a few changes here for us too at Around the Track. We're starting off the year hot with an exclusive one-on-one interview with the man who almost stole Daytona in 2311's Tyler Reddick. Plus, we're breaking down the weekend with the National Motorsports Press Reporter of the Year, none other than Mr. Alan Cavanna.
That's right, and flashback to this time just last year, we had an instant classic, right? It was the closest three-car finish in a race ever. Kyle Busch, Ryan Blaney, and your winner, Daniel Suarez, separated by 3/1000ths of a second. How did we get that close finish? Well, that was thanks to a recent reconfiguration of the track. Turn 4 is now wider and resembles more of a super speedway like Daytona, creating a ton of drafting opportunities. And to be frank, a lot of chaos. These drivers are all for it if they can keep their cars clean.
Yeah, Atlanta's a big part of our schedule now, and certainly, having a couple races there. The racing's really changed there over time as the racetrack started to wear. You've seen the racing shift a little bit. We obviously saw a close finish in the spring there last year, and expected a very exciting race once again.
Yeah, it's turned into a speedway, much like Daytona is, just on a little smaller scale. So things happen a little quicker as far as, the runs you get and the drafting and all that stuff. But very, very similar to a speedway, that you see at Daytona and Talladega now.
I mean, I feel like Atlanta's really put on some really good shows. We were all kind of skeptical of the new repave and the new layout and the higher banking and all that, but the last few races that we've been there have definitely put on some really good racing, some good finishes, some exciting finishes as well too. I was a part of that last spring, 3-wide finish, and unfortunately came home third in that one, but maybe learned a few things to where this time around we can come home first.
And we all know NASCAR people are creatures of habit. Here's something new for 2025, track trends. Kyle Busch loves running in Atlanta, and every race he's been in that number 8 Chevy for RCR, it's been a top 10 run. You'll want to watch the rookie for 2311 as well. Riley Herbst has 3 top 10s in his last 6 starts in the ATL. This trend, not so great for one of the sport's most feared drivers. Kyle Larson has only finished the race once in his last 6 attempts in Atlanta. And what a start Team Penske had down in Daytona, and it'll carry over into the ATL. Since last season, Penske drivers have run first and second for a combined 190 laps at drafting tracks. No other team comes close to matching that figure during the same span. And speaking of trends, one of the most trendiest guys in the sport is in our Racing Control studio once again.
That's right. You've seen him, you've heard him. He's got a million different jobs in NASCAR, and now the title of National Motorsports Press Association Reporter of the Year. So congratulations, Alan Cavanna. And let's talk a little bit about this race, a deeper dive into Atlanta here, right? We've already told you it's a drafting track, so this isn't really a super speedway, just over 1.5 miles. But drivers like Daytona feel like this is a Daytona. So what are some of the challenges that they're going to see over the weekend here?
Well, the challenge is the potential chaos. Some of what we saw in Daytona, right? Some of it is a crapshoot. If you didn't have a good Daytona, you're going right into another track just like it. And so if you have another bad start to the season in Atlanta, that's 2 in a row, that really digs you a hole. But if you had success in Daytona, you're going to love this, because it is that type of racing where you get the big runs, you get the drafting packs, and that is a skill set that some drivers just love. The Denny Hamlins of the world, the Penske cars of the world, they love seeing this back-to-back to start the season because they excel at it. So why not? It just depends on what kind of racing you're going for and what kind of skill set you have. But this Atlanta, this is the 7th race now we've had on this configuration. It's been weird for some drivers to figure it out. It's not the old Atlanta. It is a brand new Atlanta. You have to have that skill set.
But it also provided a thriller last year. We briefly touched on it a little bit. We're going to rewind because there were 3 cars involved in history last season in the spring race. Ryan Blaney, Kyle Busch, and of course the man who came out on top, Daniel Suarez, one of the most exciting finishes in history, Alan. We all remember it. Trio bumping the entire way to the finish line and created different pathways throughout the season as well. Kyle Busch, his first winless season. Ryan Blaney able to finish top 3 in the fall race and get into the playoffs. And then Daniel Suarez getting into the second round as well. So when you look at those 3 drivers specifically, how do you see this weekend faring out for them?
Yeah, so damn close, right, is what happened last year for these drivers in terms of if Kyle Busch wins that race by just that much, everything's fine, right? He continues his winning streak, everything's good. If Daniel Suarez doesn't win by just this much, he doesn't make the playoffs, maybe that offsets his career in a whole different direction. Ryan Blaney ended up being okay, but still, he wanted that victory. As for what it can mean this year, just a win means everything. A win means extending records. A win means millions and millions of dollars potentially if you make the playoff. A win is so important, and look at how close the difference was for those cars. If Kyle Busch wins that race, we're talking about him record-setting, right? Win streak, all this different stuff. Nothing wrong with the team, but he didn't, and therefore we still have all these questions. That's how big a win is.
I'm excited for this, and we've seen it year after year too. What manufacturers in Daytona do, that kind of carries over into the second race of the year in Atlanta. And over time, we saw the top field filled with Fords and Toyotas. We thought it was going to be a battle between Hendrick and Hamlin, and of course, you know, there was a wrong push at the end, and it was a Chevy driver, William Byron, that stole that. So what do we take away from that? I mean, especially with how dominant the Fords were in Daytona.
Hey, you got to be good. You also got to be a little lucky, right? I mean, Toyota won the week, I thought, down in Daytona. They won all the races up until Sunday. Ford dominated the race on Sunday in the Daytona, but didn't get that win until the final, that final backstretch with the big wreck. And who was there to make the right move at the right time? Let's not discount what William Byron did throughout the entire race. I mean, he was up there the entire time, and he'd won the year before, so this is no fluke what he did winning at Daytona, but he made the right move at the right time through the wrong crash and ended up winning. Yep. They don't ask how, they just ask how many, and Chevy racked up another one.
And you got to talk about, obviously, Kyle Busch, too. It seems like, you know, it's the KB show, even though we're not in Vegas yet, but we got to talk about Richard Childress Racing as a whole. You know, Kyle Busch had a strong day in Atlanta last weekend. Austin Dillon in the thick of it all right until the end of that race. And then the Xfinity Series race, too. Austin Dillon dominated until a freak accident there in the end. Luckily, Jesse Love able to get it done for RCR as well. Is it safe to say that RCR is back after their success last week?
We'll pump the brakes a little bit. I want more Cup wins. Look, RCR has a long history of winning championships with Dale Earnhardt Sr. You want to get some of those trophies back there. But look, Kyle Busch was bringing it on last year at the end of the regular season. He's right there. Let's not forget Austin Dillon won Richmond, didn't get, a little controversial. They still won a race. On the Cup side, I want to get more done. I want Kyle Busch back in victory lane before I say they're back. If you have Kyle Busch and you're not winning trophies, that's on you, right? That's on you, RCR. You better get to victory lane with him. But on the Xfinity side, they have 2 big championship contenders. Look what happened in Daytona. Yeah. Austin Hill probably should have won. When he dropped out, who won? The other guy for RCR, Jesse Love. So they have 2 really solid championship contenders. A great bench at RCR in the Xfinity Series. They got to up the game a little bit in the Cup Series.
Austin Hill would also love to get another win in Atlanta because he's pretty
hometown boy.
That as well.
Yeah,
absolutely. The future could be pretty bright there at RCR. Well, Alan's sticking around. He's not going anywhere, and so should you, because one of the drivers who reps the GOAT, Michael Jordan, is giving us a number of reasons why he is unbannable.
A little mini goal of mine for this year was let's not let this year be like the other years starting off. Let's get off to a good start.
So far, so good. 23-11 Tyler Reddick coming off his best finish in the Great American Race and is aiming to make his way back to victory lane sooner than later. We go one-on-one with the driver of the 45 coming up next.
And the world was watching when the Xfinity Series debuted its season in Daytona. 1.8 million viewers saw the Stars of Tomorrow take on Daytona, but that called some attention from the big boys, and multiple Cup Series stars announcing they're going to be coming down to teach a series a thing or two about that this season. You can find out who next. And here is a question for you. We've got breakdancing and flag football as Olympic sports, but why not start car racing?
Hey, it seems like we need it. It's an argument we need to have, but until then, we've already got an Olympic gold medalist running around with different pit crews. You'll meet him right here on Around the Track coming up.
Welcome to NASCAR Xfinity Series. Start your engine!
NASCAR Xfinity Series, Saturday. Check your local listings.
We knew he just couldn't stay away from the track, right? Aric Almirola returning to Joe Gibbs Racing Xfinity Series program for 9 races this year, and it starts this weekend in Atlanta. The remaining 8 races will be revealed later this month. The former Cup Series staple is no stranger to an Xfinity Series car, though. Almirola took home 3 wins, 8 top 5 finishes, and 9 top 10s across 14 Xfinity Series races with the team and a part-time schedule just last season. Carla Metz here with pit reporter Alan Cavana. And Alan, the Xfinity Series is where drivers of tomorrow make their names, but these Cup guys, they just can't stay away from it. Why is that?
1, they love racing. 2, the new rules in the Cup Series, they don't have practice anymore.
Yeah.
If you ask the old timers, they used to practice 7 days a week, hours and hours a day. They'd run on Sunday, wake up on Monday, and test for another 5 hours. That is out the window. Now they get 20 minutes of practice. Think about that. You're trying to hone your craft. Think about shooting a basketball only for 20 minutes and trying to play in the NBA. That's all the practice time they get now. They have to fix that, so they race in Xfinity races.
Yeah, and you can add the drivers of Hendrick Motorsports to that list of guys who cannot stay away. William Byron, Alex Bowman, Kyle Larson, and Chase Elliott will all be a part of a 16-week program that will see them drive the number 17 Chevy in the Xfinity Series. And joining them, development driver Corey Day, who signed to both Hendrick and Junior Motorsports. He'll be in the car for 10 of those drives. Adam Wall, going to crew chief for all 16 of those races. And Willie B, your Daytona 500 champion, kicks things off next week in COTA.
Well, back at the Cup Series level, Tyler Reddick raced for a Cup Series championship just last year, and he started this season with a second-place finish in Daytona. But his aspirations are sky high, just as high as the reach that his boss, Michael Jordan, has. I caught up with the driver of the 45 at his home base, properly dubbed Airspeed, in this week's Garage Confidential. First off, we got to talk about this ride that you're going to be breaking out this weekend. Just how much do you like this ride? How much, are you grateful for this partnership with Xfinity, especially given your success in that series and now moving up to the Cup Series too?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the things that, the major life-changing moments that happened to me in the Xfinity Series are a large reason why I'm a Cup driver today. And so it's been great to get to know them as I was working my way up the ranks, making my name in the Xfinity Series, and now to continue our partnership and expand it like we've been doing, and be able to run this beautiful Xfinity Mobile Toyota Camry is a lot of fun.
Fresh off a second-place finish in Daytona in the 500, your best finish there in the Great American Race. Just when you think, I know you had a lot of close finishes last year, but just what can a finish like that and what you were able to do, being there in the end, do for your career in the season moving forward?
Yeah, pretty much every year I've been a part of the Cup Series. The first month has been rough. It's been a tradition for pretty much every year. We go to Daytona and wreck. It was really nice this time around to not be in a wreck at Daytona. Typically, it's hard to do there. A little mini goal of mine for this year was let's not let this year be like the other years starting off. Let's get off to a good start. And man, it'd be awesome if we could walk away from COTA or Phoenix or Vegas with the point lead and build on that into the summer.
A lot of people have been vocal about the nature of super speedway racing. Obviously, seeing what happened with Ryan Preece, him going through that for the second time. Do you think there need to be any changes? I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's never good when these cars leave the ground. You don't really know what's going to happen next. It's a helpless feeling in the car as well. I've had my experiences with it, but yeah, I mean, curious to see what they learn from it. Obviously, keeping us safe is important so we can race aggressively and put on a great show. Yeah, at some point, they've done a lot to try and keep these cars on the ground. But, cars that make downforce also make lift when they get positioned the wrong way.
Got Atlanta on the horizon. Obviously, we saw, the incredible finish there last year. Just what's kind of the mindset going into that one, hopefully being there at the end and hopefully getting a checkered flag this weekend?
Yeah, talking about seeing that incredible finish. I was on the backstretch when that finish happened. We were involved in that lap 2 wreck in this race a year ago. And yeah, typically if we're in the hunt and we can avoid getting caught up in someone else's mess, we find our way to the front. Our Toyota Camrys have ran really good there over the years. So, and 2 years ago, we had a shot at getting our Xfinity ride to victory lane in that race as well. So it's always fun to run the Xfinity colors, and this Xfinity Mobile Camry is going to be handling good. I have a good feeling about that this weekend.
Thanks again to Tyler for the time. Well, from the Olympics to NASCAR, if the name Dan Jansen rings a bell, well, it should. Coming up, you'll find out how the Olympic gold medalist is now a proud member of one NASCAR team.
And move over, Tony Stark. There is a new Iron Man in NASCAR, and it's thanks in part to Martin Truex Jr. And while it's no longer NTJ, we are going to introduce you to the new active race leader. That's next on Around the Track.
Back here on Around the Track, we're still talking about Atlanta, and your latest race winner from AMS is about to break a record. Joe Logano about to make his 578th consecutive start, which is the longest streak of any active driver in the Cup Series. With Martin Truex Jr. leaving the sport full-time, the 22 now becomes Iron Man. He had to wait a week, though, since MTJ did drive in the 500 last week. All-time, though, Logano is 13th in consecutive starts. He'll pass Jeff Gordon's mark of 797 coming up later this season. Gabe McDonald with Carla Metz and NASCAR pit reporter Alan Cavana. Alan, if you could be in any Olympic sport, what would it be?
I'm still trying to be a dream teamer, that original dream, but not quite there yet, working on my jump shot.
All right, I like that. Yeah, luckily NASCAR does have a gold medalist among its ranks now. Our own Michael Sugg gets to the bottom of how Dan Jansen became a valuable member to a number of NASCAR drivers.
So it's crazy. This is how this began here. We're at the Corey LaJoie kickball tournament. They're announcing the names, and I hear Dan Jansen, and I'm like, now that name I know. That's an Olympic speed skater, which then begged the question for me, how does Dan Jansen get invited to a NASCAR kickball event? So please tell the people, how do you end up, how does the 1994 Olympic gold medalist end up in the world of NASCAR?
So a lot of what I did after my skating career, I did a lot of speaking, a lot of motivational talks and things like that. One happened to be for Penske. This was about eight or 9 years ago. After my talk, they came to me and said, you know, they were fascinated with what I went through on the ice, but also the mental side of things. And one of the guys asked if there was correlation and if I would be interested in working with some drivers. And I said, I'd be happy to work to do that, but I can't just do mental side without the physical side. To me, they're intertwined. You have to work on the physical side and the mental side at the same time to be optimal. And so he said, no problem. So they hired me. I was working with a small group of a couple drivers for a few years, and met a guy named Josh Wise, who has a great program, a former driver. And now it's with GM, and now we're up to 28 drivers or something, and it's a wonderful program.
When you first started working with the drivers, what was it like seeing them up close? Did anything surprise you about their work ethic and what they were doing?
Yeah, I will say the top drivers, the guys who've been doing this long enough, and the guys who realize the importance of fitness, and they surprised me with how fit they are. The guys are all willing.
Did they pick your brain like, oh, what was that like? Did they ask you about your skating day and stuff like that?
And they still do. A lot of the younger guys coming up ask me on a weekly basis about some of the things that I went through mentally, physically, some of the things we did for training. You know, the other thing I had to do was, it didn't take me long, but it took me a little bit to realize that, as you kind of touched on, I'm not training them to be speed skaters or Olympians. Yeah. I'm training them for a whole different sport. Now, as it is physically taxing, they don't have to do the things I did for training. It wouldn't make sense. A lot goes into it. These guys sometimes are in the cars everybody varies, but we've had guys in the upper 180s to 200 heart rate for 3+ hours. It's insane.
This was the scene 1 week ago. William Byron burning it down late into the Florida night. Can he become the first driver to win the first 2 races of the season since Matt Kenseth was able to do it back in 2009? We make our picks in Victory Lane Locks next on Around the Track. You already know Around the Track is a place for all the exclusive driver interviews, and next week is no exception. Bubba Wallace joins us in Garage Confidential as we get you ready for the race at COTA. Check your local listings for when you can see Around the Track in your area. And of course, it is a new year, but it is the same game. Victory Lane Locks, where we see if we can pick a winner this week is Atlanta. And Alan, you are up first.
I'm going to do it. Look, we've been to this new Atlanta we're talking about. We've been there 6 times already. Joey Logano has won there twice, and he's going to do it again. Just something about the 22 car, these new tracks. And look at how good that car looked. He was fast in Daytona. Same type of race, and we talked about this. I think he's going to be good again. This time, get the job done in ATL.
And he's so aggressive.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm going with the guy that is returning back to the crib. Give me the Georgia boy, none other than Chase Elliott, to take home the checkered flag in the ATL. I said there's no place like home. I mean, we all know that. And Chase, he's been solid at his home track in the next-gen car. He has 1 win, 2 other top 10 finishes since the 2022 season. Already a win this year in the Clash, but now he gets a dub when the races really count. And what do they sound the siren down there?
Siren.
Yeah, I think we're going to be hearing a lot of that after he gets that checkered flag.
Well, and he also ran pretty well. I think if he had not gotten caught up in some of the crashes in Daytona, he could have been there at the end. All right, I am going with his good friend Ryan Blaney. The Fords were pretty strong in Daytona. If you haven't noticed, you mentioned his teammate Joey Logano. Well, Blaney won here in 2021. Obviously, he was super close in this race last season. He's finished top 3 in both of these races in 2024. I think that's just going to serve as a little extra motivation for this race. What do you think, Alan?
Yeah, well, he couldn't have been any closer last year. We talked about it. It was one of the most historic finishes in NASCAR history. Couldn't be any closer. So maybe just that little half inch, he can do it.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting race. Very entertaining, that's for sure. That's going to do it for us on Around the Track. We'll see you next week ahead of COTA.